Hello and welcome to the Conscious Leadership Podcast. My name is Julie Hogbin and I am the creator of the 3 weekly episodes that are produced: Wealth Wednesday, the A to Z of Business on Friday, and a longer content piece or interview on a Monday. If you like what you hear, please share this podcast if you think it would support and help somebody else. I've been thinking a lot recently about my many years in learning and development, working with businesses. And coming into the entrepreneurial sector, we still have exactly the same requirements as the individual we are about support for our learning and support for our own development. And as much as the sectors may be different, as in corporate versus the entrepreneurial market, how we operate as humans is exactly the same. And I have been looking at a lot of the written work that I have from that period and thought I would do a quickish episode for Monday on learning support and support for learning and development, regardless of whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you are in a corporate setting. And when we think about it, support is imperative for any training, any mentoring, any coaching intervention, any learning intervention for that intervention to be successful. And when attending any type of learning, whether it's formal, informal, whether it's online or offline, issues will be raised and discussed that will be a new idea or way of working or a new way of being. And of course that's the case because that's what you're there for. So let's think about this. For you to implement the new learning, the new way of being into your environment, your current environment, support is going to be needed. Not everybody in the real world will have received the same message as you. And not everybody in the real world will have received the same learning as you. And the new way of doing or being may clash with the current culture, both your internal culture and the external culture that you inhabit. And a key question from me to you, and for you to ask yourself, is how will you know you have been successful in your development? And there is a 4-stage process that has action at every stage. Stage 1, create learning objectives before you attend the training event, the intervention. It's your pre-work, whether that be with a manager or whether that be with yourself or whether that be with your business partner. Stage 2, a discussion is held immediately after the event. So immediately after you have received the training, the learning, the coaching, the mentoring, and a plan is developed for your action. Now that may be started to be developed during the intervention, the process, and it may be that you do it afterwards. Stage 3, new learning is to be implemented with support and accountability. And stage 4, a discussion is held after the implementation of the learning for success, acknowledgement and feedback. And that may be a discussion you have with yourself, it may be a discussion you have with your mentor, your coach or your trainer, or it may be a discussion that you have with your line manager or your business partner. If you use this 4-stage approach, or should I say when you use this 4-stage approach, it will help you to ensure that you've correctly identified your learning need or the learning need for your business. It will ensure that you gain support to undertake the development. It will ensure that you support the transfer of learning into the reality. And it will evaluate the success of the development on an ongoing basis. Now, one of the ways you do this, or you can do this, is to create and start a learning log for yourself, which then can be filled out incrementally from each learning intervention, both formal and informal. You will receive learnings, if you're open to them, from every stage. So let's look at it in a bit more detail for stage 1. So before the learning opportunity, identify what learning objectives are you intending to meet by taking part in this development opportunity. And there are many, from meeting new people to learning a vital piece of information that you can transfer immediately. Have you got all the information you need before taking part in the development opportunity? Do you have a list of what's being covered? Do you have a time to be there by? Do you have an address that you need? Do you have the parking information? Some of that may seem minor, but if you get to a training or learning intervention opportunity, whether it be online or offline, and you haven't got the right information, you could appear either late or not ready and not, relaxed enough to learn. So what support do you need to ensure that you get the most from the intervention? What preparation is needed by you before the experience? So I, in the past, have provided questionnaires to be completed before the intervention, and maybe 50% of the people that attend haven't completed it. So their learning is hindered by the fact that they've not prepared before. Are there any barriers which may hinder you in meeting the learning objectives that you've set, or your line manager or your business partner has agreed with you? And there could be many, but think about them in advance. And how will you use your new learning when you return to whatever the environment is that you're returning to? Stage 2, shortly after the development opportunity, whatever that is, what was your reaction to it? Was it good? Was it bad? Was it indifferent? What did you learn? Write it down, get it into the learning log. And then how will you now apply your new learning? Give yourself a date, a deadline. Follow the structure method that I have in my book, Goals, the practical how-to guide. And what support, if any, do you need to apply your new learning? Stage 3 is really simple. Take action and put it into practice. Many people don't. They'll learn for learning's sake. And then stage 4, a while after, to suit yourself at an appropriate timescale, to suit your business at an appropriate timescale. Have your new skills, the new knowledge, the new behaviours been successfully transferred into the reality? And if yes, how? And if no, why not? Has the development need been sufficiently met? And then have you identified further development needs? Now, my recognition of life is that there are always development needs for us as individuals, because life, the world doesn't stand still. So if we stand still with our learning, we go backwards because everything else goes forwards. Now, I just want to share with you one last thing on this episode. There's a piece of work was done by a guy called Malcolm Knowles, and it's called The Characteristics of Adult Learners. And I really want to share this with you because it affects every single one of us when we are presented with an opportunity to learn. So the first one is called self-concept. And we as adults have developed a concept of self and are far more willing to trust our own judgment. When we are learning any information and ideas which strongly conflict with our own values, our own beliefs, and what we hold to be true, will take much longer to absorb and may not be retained or deemed useful. We can reject information because it doesn't sit with us. Another area that we need to think about is our own experience. So as adults, and this is the difference between adults and children, as adults, we have a greater wealth of experience that can be tapped into as a resource. And learning that relies on short-term memory is more difficult when the facts and figures are unfamiliar and cannot be coded, for want of a better word, or organised by us as the learner. So when information relates to a previous experience, it can be understood, organised, stored, and is much more likely to be remembered. Motivation. As an adult, our motivation to learn is related to phases in our lives and social roles. And as adults, we learn best when we are actively involved and when we do not have to rely on memorising, but learn through activity at our own pace, with materials relevant to our own lives and experience. And then the very final one, timing. As adults, we want learning that has an immediate application and tend towards a problem-solving approach. As an adult, if we learn something that we cannot then immediately put into practice, we will have a tendency to forget it. Therefore, all of the coaching, all of the mentoring, all of the learning that you do from choice for you, for your business partner, for your employer, regardless of who you are or where you are, as an adult, get it put into practice as soon as you possibly can. If you don't practice it, you are very much less likely to remember it. And if you think about that, ultimately, coming back round to the beginning, is that the learning opportunity will be completely wasted. So think about in advance, what's the support you need for your learning? What's the support you need for your development? And where do you get it from, linked into accountability? So a relatively short sample for this Monday edition of the Conscious Leadership podcast. And again, if you have any questions, please ask. I am more than happy to help. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Conscious Leadership podcast. If you have any questions, please contact me on any one of the social media channels. I'm on most of them, including Clubhouse and YouTube, and my books are on Amazon. If you would like a topic discussed, please tell me. And if you have found this information useful, please share and please leave a review.